Why are people struggling to sell boats today? I've seen several posts on sailors' forums. Short answer is greed. For instance, these boats sold for €150,000 to €200,000 in 2015, about $165,000 to $220,000. Seeing them listed today at €200,000 to €230,000, roughly $220,000 to $253,000, despite being 10 years older and often needing a full refit, is totally incoherent. A depreciation of at least 30% would be logical. And yet this is no longer an isolated case. Across the world, the used boat market has quietly reversed. For 3 years after COVID, boats sold faster than almost anything else in the leisure industry. In both the Caribbean and Europe, listings now exceed the market's absorption capacity. The reality is uncomfortable. Up to 30% of boats currently listed may never find a buyer. Between 2020 and 2023, the boating world entered an anomaly. Production delays limited supply, travel restrictions redirected leisure budgets, and people who could not fly bought boats instead. For a while, logic disappeared. 5 or even 10-year-old boats sometimes sold for more than their original purchase price. But that period is finished. The market is returning to normal behavior, depreciation, and many listings have not adjusted. Take a 4-cabin catamaran bought 10 years ago for €150,000, about $165,000. Today, it is listed for €160,000, roughly $176,000. No engine rebuild, no electronics upgrade, no major refit. That pricing existed only during the COVID bubble. In today's market, it makes no economic sense. For years, 4-cabin ex-charter catamarans held value well because owner versions were rare. That has changed completely. Supply of 3-cabin owner versions is now the highest ever recorded, and private buyers overwhelmingly prefer them. Meanwhile, 4-cabin charter boats are seen as more worn, less desirable, and more expensive to upgrade. Prices are falling. A Lagoon 42, 7 to 8 years old, 4-cabin version now sells for under €250,000, about $275,000, while not long ago it sold near €300,000, around $330,000. 3-cabin versions still attract buyers, but 4-cabin versions have become extremely difficult to sell. Part of the problem is accelerating innovation. The Beneteau-Jeannot Group announced 66 new models in just 3 years, a 50% increase over the previous cycle. New boats now offer larger interior volumes, better ergonomics, modern styling, simpler electronics, and improved power-to-weight ratios. As a result, a 10 to 15-year-old boat looks dramatically more outdated than it did only a few years ago. Even well-maintained boats suffer accelerated obsolescence, making resale harder. In a normal market, depreciation is inevitable, about 30% loss in 5 years and roughly 50% in 10 years. The market is returning to those fundamentals faster and more brutally than many expected. Boat Wizard data, covering at least 90% of active listings, reveals the scale of the imbalance. In the Caribbean alone, there are 387 catamarans for sale. 73% are under 10 years old, 283 boats, including 222 under 10 years old between 38 and 50 feet, with 287 total boats in that size range. The inventory is unusually recent, an abnormal situation. Yet in 2025, only 92 sold, including 65 recent boats. The turnover rate is 24%, 1 sale for every 4.2 boats listed. Worldwide, the pattern is the same, about 2,100 catamarans for sale and 1,500 under 10 years old, roughly 71%. Oversupply is structural. The United States shows a different dynamic. There are 380 catamarans for sale, but 233 sold in 2025. A strong US dollar increases purchasing power, boats are already imported and taxed, customs risks disappear, and new import duties on brand new boats push buyers toward used ones. However, this creates a side effect. American buyers, once major Caribbean purchasers, now buy almost exclusively within the United States. The U.S. represents nearly half of global buyers, so when they stop shopping abroad, Caribbean demand collapses. Monohulls are less saturated but still weakened. The Caribbean has 182 listed, only 36 under 10 years old, about 20%. In the 38 to 50-foot range, there are 105 boats, including 28 recent ones. In 2025, only 66 sold, a turnover rate of 36%. The monohull market is healthier than catamarans, but long-term demand has shifted toward multi-hulls, meaning many monohulls sell only when buyers cannot afford a catamaran. Older boats or refit projects struggle to find buyers. The market of 2025 and 2026 demands acceptance. To sell a boat today requires a realistic price, a clear understanding of its value, and acceptance that demand is no longer what it was in 2021 and 2022. The COVID era was an exception, and the old rules of depreciation have returned, this time unforgiving.